right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the pre-field orientation. Excited to see you all. My name is Erin Kong. I'm the Director of Field Education here at U of M. And with me, I have my esteemed field faculty colleagues joining us, and you'll get to know them in a second. I will not talk forever, but I just wanted to say welcome and say a quick hi. Some of you I have met already, and excited to have you start field in this space. Just to ground you, this is for students who are starting field for the first time. This is your first semester starting field. So again, we're really excited to see you here. I just want to share briefly, maybe just a few couple points. One is my experience. I started in this role last August. And I think one of the things that has struck me is students getting the most out of field are the students that put the most in. So hoping that you all are not passive participants in this process, but really take to heart that although it seems like there's a lot of hours to do, it goes by quickly and it's actually not enough. And so the reason why we have you start your professional career in this space is we really want to connect the learning of what you're doing in the classrooms to a real life practical application, right? Your field of practicum experience. But again, I think the students who really look out for other opportunities and try to invest as much as they can into this field experience at graduation time, those are the students that come back to our office and really share some of the amazing things that they do. So I just really want to encourage you to lean into that space. The second thing I would just say is it can be uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's supposed to. Discomfort is normal. But I want to just also throw out that we are uncomfortable at times within reason, right? We don't want you to be so uncomfortable you can't do all the things, but we are uncomfortable because we want to be client project centric. And I think sometimes when we ground ourselves in the why of why we're doing this work for aligning with our values and our ethics, that can really help to sustain us and build some resilience to do the hard work that we're doing. So just want to have you remind yourself of the why every once in a while. So with that, those are just a couple things I wanted to encourage you as you get started. With that, I will turn this over to Dr. Rachel Naska.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. As I said, I feel like it's still morning for me, but many of you are in afternoon, and it's noon here in Ann Arbor if you're local. So here's, we're going to share some information today about field. And the day is really, our time is going to be spent with trying to give you the foundation. There are going to be lots of questions, and we're going to leave time for that as well. But the idea for today is to really give you some basic information, answer questions, do some introductions, and then hopefully we'll give you a place to start. And so we'll do some introductions. We're going to talk about the roles in field education so you know who's responsible for what. We're going to talk a little bit about your assignments, the field hours and credits and registrations and how all of that works. And we're going to help you to just get ready for joining field and some ideas for what you might do to get prepared for this semester so that it can be as successful as it possibly can be. Next slide, please. And so as I promised, we're going to introduce our amazing team. We are an office that works very hard together. So you'll probably interface with many of our program administrator team, which is what you're seeing right now. Our director, Erin Kong, who just introduced herself to you. Our assistant director of the online program, Dr. Yatisha Robinson, who's not with us today, but is always there cheering you on behind the scenes. And some of you, she's also the field faculty. Kendra Clark is one of our program assistants. She's the smiling face. If you're able to come to our office, she is the one that you will probably see first. Sarah Castillo is our office manager, and she kind of handles all things behind the scenes. And there's a lot of technology that actually comes with your field courses. And so she'll be helping us with that. We also have Talia Dyerly Ingram, who is part of our field coordinator, and she does some of the placing. And we also have a new program assistant, so new that we haven't placed her picture yet on the slide, and her name is Celia. She also sits right in the front. If you walk into the office, she'll be there to help and guide you as well. So these are some of the people that are helping just keep our field education program going on the day-to-day, logistics and all things administrative. And then next slide. And here is your field faculty. So these are your teachers, the people who are going to be ultimately grading you, and they actually generally will stay with you and through your entire field education experience. And I wanted to allow them to do a brief introduction so that you can kind of hear their voices and see their faces and names. And so for those of you who are joining us, I'm just going to do that based on who is on my screen in the order. So Christina, you are the very first one. Would you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Dadswell, field faculty here at University of Michigan. It's nice to see you all today. Thanks for being here.
Miriam Connolly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miriam Connolly, and I am so excited to partner with you in your field experience.
Zainab.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zainab Bousi, and I look forward to working with my students this term. So nice to see everybody.
I'll just say all three of these amazing professionals are also alums of the program. So I think that's important to note. Ro, do you want to go next?
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Rosalvo Sorio Cooksey. I use they, she pronouns. I am also a grad from U of M. So I say I bleed maize and blue because I went here undergrad and grad school. And I wanted to share that Rachel had told us to say something about us so that you'd remember us. I wanted y'all to remember that I love watermelon. Watermelon I can have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm the only one in my house that eats watermelon. So just imagine me with watermelon. And that's like my spring, summer, fall, like when it's in season, right? Like it's just me. So if, not that you can bribe me with a watermelon, but just saying me and watermelon are BFF. So thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Ro. We'll swing back and hear from our other colleagues. Stacey, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Stacy Peterson. Nice to meet you. Also a grad of the program and looking forward to getting to know you better. I have a little dog named Oreo. That's the most interesting thing about me right now. And 3 amazing grandkids. And I got kids too.
All the kids, all the pets, all the kids. We have a pet wall in our office. If you ever get to come to the office, you should come see all of our pets. Amy, B.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Barant. I use she, her pronouns. Something interesting about me is I am a ravenous vinyl collector. I love collecting records and cataloging them and keeping spreadsheets about them. It's my favorite thing. I'm also really excited to be working with you all this term. So welcome.
Nitesh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nitesh Singh, another field faculty. I use he, him pronouns. Something interesting about me is I have 2 cats, and I'm working from home today, so they probably will make an appearance at some time. So keep your eyes peeled.
Christina, do you want to share a fun fact?
Sure. While we're on the pets, I have really cute puppy. She kind of looks like Lady and the Tramp. And she is very special and a little hyper, but we love her.
Maya.
So something interesting about me is I'm a former Marine, but the more interesting thing about me is that I will break into a dance party at any time.
Zainab.
I want to attend that dance party, Miriam. Fun facts about me, I love cake. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I can have cake all day long too. So maybe with watermelon. So maybe, Ro, you and I can connect with that too.
And then my little fun fact, I think that's all of the field faculty who are here today. I love cereal, all cereal. The kids cereal, the sugary, the crunchy, the organic, I don't care what it is, I will eat it all. All right, so that's a little bit about us, and hopefully you'll get to know us a little bit more through the semester in our field connection meetings and site visits and other times. And so we'll keep going forward. We're going to pass that one because we just did it. Great. Okay. So who are all these people that will be in your field experience spending this amazing time with you? So you, of course, why we're all here. We're here to help you succeed and learn to be the best social worker that you can be. your field instructors, and they are the people that are at the site. So sometimes those are people, sometimes you'll have one of those, sometimes you'll have two of those. You should know right now if you have one or two. And sometimes they hold a social work degree. So if you have one social worker, everyone should have, every student should have a field instructor who has a social work degree. But sometimes you also will have a task supervisor who may have some other degree who's working in your agency and supporting the learning. And they're also the people that are at the site. So you're going to see them very regularly every time that you're engaging in field and supervision, through your educational agreement, through your tasks and assignments. And then there is the field faculty who just introduced themselves to you, and they too will be with you throughout the time. And unlike other courses where you go to a course and you have a class and you're either on Zoom or in the classroom, you won't have that necessarily. Your site will be your classroom. And so the field faculty are going to be along with you through your experience, but not in the same traditional way that maybe you've experienced in other classes. We're going to be participating in all elements of field, but one of the things that as I was reflecting this morning, I was thinking about how important the communication that you'll have with all of us is, and how dependent it really is on you to engage with us. We'll do our best to be reaching out to you and connecting with you, but that we'll also need you to be reaching out to us because of the model of field education. We offer, the field faculty will be the ones who finalize your grades, and we'll also be the problem solvers and the celebration of your successes along the way. So that's a little bit about our role. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how the field faculty will support your assignments coming up next. Next slide, please. Okay. I mentioned a little bit about communication and a little bit about why this class structure is a little bit different. But we encourage you to understand that communication is key, and it goes both ways. We'll be communicating with you through our Canvas sites, and we'll be sending you announcements for both 515 or 691, depending on what class you're in, through Canvas. It'll be reminders. It'll be resources and tools. It'll be deadlines and due dates, but that will be our primary way week to week that we will be communicating with you. We'll also be communicating with you during your site visit and during your field connection meetings, but we also need to hear from you. And so we encourage you that every field faculty communicates a slightly different way if you need us. So think about email, phone, text, office hours, and one-on-one meetings. Those are all available to you. If you get to your Canvas site, and most of those should be published today, or if not at this moment, shortly soon, we'll have information for you about how each one of us works best with communication, what you can expect around timelines. We try really hard to get to you between 48 and 72 hours. That's our goal. But we know how important the communication between the two of us, because we don't have that specific classroom style. So just keep thinking about, how can I communicate, and when might I be communicating with my field faculty, who are the teachers really of your course. I also included today on this slide a little bit about the technical standards for communication, because we actually have expectations around how you're going to be communicating. And each one of you signed the technical standards when you came to our program. And so I just put this in here as a reminder about what our expectations from you are around communication, both with us, but also within your organization and your field placement site. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned the courses before. Your field courses will always be 515 or 691. 515 is the foundation, social work practice foundation. You'll only take that in your first semester, and if you're not an advanced standing student. If you are an advanced standing student, you'll move straight into social work 691, and that's advanced field. For both of these courses, the requirements will be the same each semester. You'll complete what we call the placement verification form. This is an online form that you will find on your Canvas site. It's also linked here, and it's available to you right now. All the forms that I'm talking about today can also be found just on the School of Social Work webpage. So if you're lost and you tried to find it on Canvas and you couldn't find this slide deck, you can also go and search it on the social work website. The placement verification form is an important form because it allows you to access your educational agreement once it's been approved by one of your field instructors. We're going to ask you things like, what is your field schedule? When are you going to be in field? Have you gone through safety procedure conversation? Have you been oriented? Those kinds of things. If you have questions about completing the placement verification form, your field faculty are here to help you. As I said, once you finally hit submit on that button, your field instructors will also have to approve it. If you have two, only one has to approve the form, and they'll have to log in using their UMich email to be able to approve it. All our communication to field instructors will go to their UMich email. Once your field instructor has approved your placement verification form, it comes to our administrative team. They review it, and then they unlock your educational agreement. The reason that we keep those educational agreements locked is because the placement verification form is so important. So please make sure that you take care of that as soon as possible. And the due dates for that, I'm going to show you. All the due dates are on one slide for you. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The office will unlock your education agreement, and once you can see it, you'll be able to see all the social work competencies and a drop-down menu that allows you to select one assignment for each of those competencies. You're going to connect the social work practice within your unique context. You're all placed in different kinds of social work organizations. And so the idea is that the educational agreement is the primary tool that you're communicating back to your field faculty what you're doing in your practice context that connects to those social work competencies and how you're developing and learning and growing throughout those competencies. The next assignment will be your key learning experience. We'll also have a site visit and field connections. These are kind of the core, and in the next slides, I have a little bit more detail in each one. Next slide, please. The educational agreement, as I referred to before, is really where you're going to discuss your practice experience and connect them back to the social work competencies. Each semester, you'll select an assignment for the competencies, and you can change those actually throughout the semester. I've had students who thought that a grant was coming through and they were going to be able to start a new group or work on a new project. And then for some reason that didn't happen that semester. So you can actually change them over time, but we're going to ask that you select those assignments early in your semester so that you have a guide to what the work will look like in your field placement organization. Throughout the semester, you should be writing the justifications, and justifications are really just an explanation back to your field faculty about one, how did you complete that assignment throughout the semester? And two, what did you learn from it? How did it improve your practice or change your practice? So that educational learning agreement is kind of a semester-long document, and it's an online tool that you'll be able to access at any time along with your field instructors. They can also see it while you're working on it at any time. In your Canvas sites, you should have, with each one of your field faculty, some guidelines around what those justifications should look like. And you can see those in your syllabus and in the assignments that are listed on Canvas specifically. At the end of the term, after you've written all of your justifications, you will also rate yourself on your own development. And once you finally hit submit on that educational agreement, your field instructor at the site will also review your justifications in their final state and give you a rating. This is what we refer to as the evaluation process for the end of the semester. Once the field instructor has completed that, they will be sent to your field faculty, one of us, and then we will review them in totality and issue the final grade. Next slide, please. As a reminder, These are the CSWE social work competencies for all pathways. So you will all be working on these same 9 competencies. The only change and difference will be the context of which you're practicing them and through the lens of your particular pathway. Today, I went through and kind of bolded the key words in each pathway so that you can start to wrap your brain around how those look. But don't be assured, we'll never ask you to have them memorized. It's not a requirement to finish this degree, but we do want you to understand how they connect to the social work practice environment that you are placed in. Next. A little bit about your site visits. So every term, your field faculty will host a site visit with you and your field instructor. Some of those will happen virtually and some of those will happen in person. There'll be specific directions from your field faculty member coming to you through your Canvas site. Again, another note to pay attention to the announcements that we send you. We know you get a lot of them and you're getting them for all your courses. But this really is our primary way of communicating with you. And so it's essential that you're reading any announcement that comes from your 515 or your 691 course. During the site visit, they can last anywhere from, I would say 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how quickly you can, how quickly you move through the questions that are offered. But your field faculty are going to kind of be the facilitator of that conversation. And we're going to be asking about things like, how does your field site operate? What's happening in the progress towards your assessment? Giving us examples of what you're doing in your field placement. How are you connecting what you're learning in the course to your particular field placement environment? What's your supervision structure? What does that look like? And how is it impacting your learning? Any ethical questions that might be coming up? PODS, privilege, oppression, diversity, and social justice. We'll certainly be talking about that as relates to your site. And then, of course, your own self-care and professional resilience and how you're developing those core skills as you move through your field placement experience. I know for myself, every site visit is a little bit different between the site and the student and where you are in field, so that when we come for your first site visit, we may be asking you different questions than the questions that we're asking you in your last site visit. I always try to tell students, be rest assured, you can't necessarily fail a site visit, but we certainly want you to be able to talk about what you're doing and how you're practicing. And if we think you need another shot at it, we'll be happy to schedule that too. Next slide, please. You've heard me mention these, what I've called field connections. And really what they are is a single meeting with a small group of students who share your field faculty to talk about what's happening in field without your field instructors present. Some of us will bring specific content we want to share with you, and others will allow you to reflect and share and connect with your peers. We all structure them a little bit differently, but we'll share more information about what your field connection sessions will look like and how you will either register or sign up for a particular session on your Canvas site. It's a great place to bring questions for us or concerns that you're having, but also you can bring those directly to us at any time through email or reaching out to us directly. Sometimes it's hard to address a specific student problem when we have another agenda for that field connection time. So again, communication early and often, we're always about that. We also like to touch a little bit on career planning, licensure, and any other kind of like practice related questions. And as a special note, this will also count as a field hour. So you can do it during your field hours. And of course, then it would count because you're in field. But if you happen to register for a field connection session or sign up for a session and it's not on your field day, you'll also count that towards your total field hours for the semester. Next slide, please. Another assignment that will come at the end of the semester, just before your educational agreement evaluation is done, is the key learning assignment. This is really a traditional social work reflection and we give you a good structure for how to do it. You'll find that information on your Canvas site, and there will be a key learning experience project worksheet packet that actually describes exactly what we want from you. We give you an example of how it can look, and we've also allowed students to do that via video. So if you prefer to record yourself talking us through it, that also is an option. That will be uploaded directly to Canvas and is really the only thing that needs to be uploaded to Canvas throughout the semester. Yes, field connections. I see the question already. Field connections are the times are determined by your field faculty based on our schedules, but all of us try to give a variety of times. So sometimes they're in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes they're in the evening. We know that you're coming to us from all over the country, and so we try our best to accommodate the schedules. Usually most of us have several scheduled, like somewhere between 5 to 10 different sessions. And if you're having a hard time finding one that meets your schedule, just reach out to your field faculty and let you know, and we will help guide you through the next step. Next slide, please. I talked to you about those due dates. So I put them here as a guide for you. The placement verification form will be due on May 28th at 5 p.m. And remember, that's the one that needs to be completed by your field instructor as well. And so they will get an email once you've submitted it through their UMich email with a link so that they can log on and approve it. This also allows you to open up your educational agreement. And I mentioned to you that we ask that you go into the educational agreement and choose your assignments early in the term. In this case, we're going to ask that they're done by June 11th. There's nothing that you have to turn in at that time. Just simply log into the educational agreement and go to the drop-down menu for each competency and select one assignment after discussing it with your field instructor. The key learning assignment will be due July 16th. And then the educational agreement final evaluation will be due on July 30th. Your site visit will be scheduled with your individual field faculty, and we usually have some guidelines about when we want you to have that scheduled by. I know for me last semester, I tried to have all field site visits completed in the months of February and March. That left me some time in April so that I could have a rescheduled time if people got sick or we needed more time for some reason. So please look at your Canvas site so that you can understand what your individual field faculty's requirements are around the scheduling and timing of your site visit. You'll also need to attend one session of Field Connections. And again, there'll be a message to you from your field faculty via Canvas describing how they want you to go about signing up or attending a Field Connection session. Those will all be done throughout the term, and we always schedule them sporadically throughout. The other thing I wanted to mention was the academic calendar. Sometimes field sites, well, most of the time field sites are not thinking about your academic schedule. They are working in their own little bubble of professional life. And so I encourage you to remind and share with your field sites when are the holidays, when are the first days of field and the last day is of field. If you have any vacations scheduled this summer where you're going to need to be out of field, all of that you want to make sure that you're communicating early and often with your field agency site. The note that I'll make around holidays is if you are to be in field, let's say Memorial Day, that's a Monday. If your field schedule includes a Monday, you still are responsible for the same number of field hours, but you are not expected to be in field on a holiday. But you are expected to figure out how to make up those hours. So that really is a decision for you and your field site on how you're going to address any holidays that you may be out. I just also noted the 4th of July and then gave you the first day of field or the last day of field, which is August 18th. And that is one day after the last day of classes. And I wanted you to note that as well. Next slide, please. Okay. All of you, every semester, need to be registered for field. If you're not registered, it becomes problematic and we can't give you credit for a class that you didn't actually take. So please remember to register for field every semester that you're in field. For those of you who are just beginning and are not advanced standing, you'll be taking 2 credits of 515, which is foundation field, and it equals 228 hours starting today and all the way to the last day of field on August 13th. Every student is generally expected to be in field 16 hours per week. Some of you will be in field 2 full days. Others will have a mixed schedule, maybe 4 half days, or maybe there's a weekend or an evening day. But in general, you should be in field accruing 16 hours per week. I see, Anastasia, you have a question. Is it something we should answer now or should we hold it to the end?
I had a question about the amount of credits needed for field for master track students, because I was told 2 different answers by 2 different people. So
Sure.
I registered for the 515 and the 691.
You just need 515 right now. It also
Okay.
depends on your field site, and I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but
Okay.
some sites will require more than that 16 hours per week. And if you're in 515, you'll also need to register for 691. So my best recommendation for you is to reach out to your field faculty to check your registration.
Okay. Because it was
Okay.
Dr. Yanni that told me I needed to register, but then someone else told me no. So I
Yeah.
wasn't
So,
sure.
yep. And you can also send it to Dr. Yanni
Okay.
and yeah, that should work.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So in the remaining terms, let's just say that you are not an advanced standing student and you're registered for your 2 credits of 515 this semester. Next semester, you will likely be registering for 6 credits of 691 or 6 credits of advanced field. If you're advanced standing, you're probably going to be registering for 4 credits of 691 all the way through for all 3 terms. If you're unclear about your registration, you can always refer back to your the program form that outlines all your classes that you're going to be taking, or you can reach out to your field faculty and we can help you clarify what exactly we think you're supposed to be registered for and how that fits along with your program. One of the weird things about the field courses is they're under independent study. So sometimes we'll hear from students like, we don't know where to find the courses. They're under the independent study courses. And that's linked right here with some directions as well, if you haven't registered quite yet. In order to graduate, you're going to need 14 credits of field. Advanced standing students will need 12 credits, 12 credits of 691 specifically. Students are responsible for logging their hours, and field faculty, there are lots of examples of how you can log, and we don't actually care exactly how you do it, but we want you to have a log, a document that if we say, let me see your log, how many hours have you completed for any reason, that you'll be able to pull that up for us to show us. On most Canvas sites, we'll also have examples of different logs that students have used so that you have a little bit of an example. But if your field site has a specific methodology that they would like you to use, go ahead and do that. You are responsible for making sure that you are going to field and getting your hours. For example, let's say you get sick, there's some illness and it takes you out of field for a week, let's say. You are responsible for communicating with your field site about how you'll make up those hours. And I always encourage students, if you're out more than 1 day or 2 days, you might want to loop in your field faculty too, so that we can be there to help support you and think about what's the best way to address the challenge of making up the hours. But it really is your responsibility to be accruing that 16 hours a week, or once you've moved into advanced field and you're taking 6 credits, that goes up to 24 hours a week. You are responsible for accruing that overtime. Next slide, please. Safety, your safety specifically, is our utmost concern. We want you to review organizational policies and procedures. We actually ask you about it on your placement verification form. If something happens at your field site, anything at all, please reach out to your field faculty so that we can discuss about what might steps look like, and also talk with your field instructor. If you need to get medical care, we want you to notify and debrief your field instructor first, and then loop back to the field faculty and the director of field education. The phone number is there for you. That will allow us to take our next steps to make sure that you are getting the care that you need, and that we can address any further concerns. Some students aren't sure what to ask or what the risks might be in field, so you can ask your field instructor what type of unsafe or at-risk populations may arise at this placement. How can you seek guidance and support in those situations? And you might also want to know a little bit about how to triage specific client situations if you're in a placement where you're having direct service practice. And then always make sure to be debriefing about any potential safety concerns or safety concerns that have emerged and you had to address. All of that information is important for your learning, but also important for your agency to understand your experiences. And many students are not in placements where their field instructor is sitting right next to them all the time. So again, that's why I highlighted the importance of communication, both to your field faculty and your field instructor. There's a safety review link that's on this slide that you'll have access to later on in case you want some more information about how you might want to think about safety for your particular placement environment. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're getting close to the end, and then we're going to open it up to all the questions. But as you start thinking about how to get ready for this experience, we encourage you to think about a few things. One, there's an article called Are You a Joy? You can find it online, and it's also linked here. And it really speaks to students who are entering their field placement for the first time, and about the perspective and mindset that you might take as you enter the field. We want you to consider, how are you going to enter this community that's already established as a learner? We want you to understand that your anxiety is normal. It's normal to be worried and anxious about new experiences. And as you're moving from being a service receiver to a service provider, how are you going to navigate your worries? What specific strategies might you use to help manage it? We also want you to think about, how can you be resilient? How are you going to get through those tough days? Who can you rely on? What strategies might you need to establish so that you can take care of yourself on the best days of field and the ones that feel so rocky? We want you to be patient. Here's the thing. All of our sites are invested in your learning. You all will have exposure to social workers who have been through this experience just like you are right now. And all agencies arrange their teaching and training differently. And so you might hear some of your colleagues who are jumping right into projects or seeing clients and building caseloads, while others might be in trainings and in a learning stance or observing stance before they're going to be doing those things. All of that is okay. We want you to have patience with all that you have to learn, and also understand that we all have your best interest in mind. If you're questioning the pace of your field placement, reach out to your field instructor or your field faculty. We're happy to have those conversations. Sometimes it's just about students not understanding how the learning is going to unfold, and so you begin to question it based on what you're hearing from your peers. We're here to support you. That's literally our job, is to walk you through this process. Practice asking for help. Many of you have gotten to where you are today because you are great students. This is the moment to change your thinking just a bit and recognize how much you have to learn. We want you to ask for help from us and from your field instructors. We expect that you're not going to know everything, and that is okay. That's why you're here. But we need you to let us know when you need more support or when you have questions. Plan to make mistakes, learn, and make more mistakes. This is what learning looks like. It's okay. And the more that you are stretching yourself, the more you might make mistakes. That's okay. The goal is for you to apply what you learn from that mistake to the next situation. That's how you'll grow in your practice. I mentioned this a little bit already, but we want you to get into this mindset of moving from this receiver of services to a provider of services. So less about what your own personal experiences are in your that might be related to social work, and more about how you are going to now serve others. How can you take what you're learning in the classroom? How can you use the social work code of ethics and our technical standards to inform and create the social work lens in which you are trying to practice with? Next slide, please. So a couple of to-dos this week. We want you to read and share your syllabus with your field instructors. And I would actually say bring all your syllabi to your field instructors. They don't know the curriculum, even if they have come from our program. We have changed our curriculum since then. And so many of them are curious about what you're learning and how you can apply what you're learning in the classroom back to field. Make sure you review the Canvas sites and pay attention to our announcements. We've done this. I think that we have more than 150 years of practice experience just among the field faculty alone. And many of us have been doing this for many years. I think Nitesh is our newest, and even Nitesh has time under his belt as a teacher and as a social work field instructor. And so let us be your guide. You can be the expert on you and your field placement, and we're going to be the expert on all things field education. We want to come together with you so that you can have the best possible field experience. Make sure you complete all elements of agency orientation and specifically ask your field sites about orientation and what that might bring for you. For some of you, it might be a very formal process, and for others, it might be shadowing and observing in conversation with your field instructor. Building relationships with field instructors and field faculty is essential. When we look at the research on field education, one thing is perfectly clear. When we ask students and we ask field instructors about what makes a positive field education experience, they all report the same thing: the relationship that they have with you as the student, and the student with the field instructor as the teacher. So invest in those relationships, and you'll do this through your regular contact with them and through your supervision sessions. Make sure to complete your placement verification form. We've talked about that a little bit. And you want to think about and ask about establishing your supervision schedule and creating an agenda. We expect that students will be bringing an agenda to every supervision meeting, and that should really be discussed with your field instructor. They might say to you, oh, you don't need to bring an agenda. You can push back and say, oh, they told me that I really should. And we think that it's an important part of your professional skill. When I meet with Erin or any other supervisor, I try my best to bring an agenda so that I can use our time in the most efficient manner. It's a social work skill to be able to be prepared for your social work supervision. Review the SSW technical standards and the code of ethics. If you have not read the code of ethics, that is your very first assignment from all of us as field faculty. You must understand what your obligations are within the code of ethics because we expect you to follow them. That is true also for the technical standards. If you have questions for any of that, that's what the field faculty are here for. We're happy to talk with you more. We mentioned creating and documenting your field hours log, and you can talk with your field instructors with that and look for more guidance on the Canvas site with ideas about how you might do that. And then ask for help when needed, of course. And I can see that the supervision agenda is on here twice. And so that tells you how important it is. We really want to make sure that you have your schedule established and that you're thinking and planning for that special time that you have with your field instructor. Next slide. And so we've gotten to our favorite portion of the session, to hear from all of you. What are your questions? And perhaps if you want to speak your question, you can just raise your hand and I'll try to call on you as you come up. Is it Alicia or Alicia?
It's Alicia.
I didn't get it. Sorry about that, Alicia.
No
What's your
problem.
question?
My question is because I'm completing my field placement at my employer.
Yes.
I'm like unsure of my role of what I'm supposed to be doing. And we start this week. So